Yeah. Hello and good evening, everyone. To all of our viewers tuning in from Milwaukee, happy spring, and hopefully the rain is bringing some luscious greenery around you. If you're joining in from across the country, also happy spring, and welcome to Milwaukee Rep's virtual home. My name is Njeme Kamara, she, her, hers, and I am the Associate Director of Engagement here at Milwaukee Repertory Theater. Tonight's programming is a very special one. Our guests tonight of Voices of Gun Violence are not performing, they are not reciting the words of a playwright. They are letting us into their own words, their own stories, and they demonstrate the beautiful power of sharing a story, sharing one's own narrative, and having control of that narrative. This is part 2 of our Voices of Gun Violence panel. 2 weeks ago, you may have witnessed the adult panel, or perhaps you were on it. Tonight, we turn our attention to some of the youth members of this project. Their beautiful vulnerability, like the adult panel, is an example of Ubuntu, the Zulu proverb, I am because we are. And they show us that gun violence, being a survivor, and being a resilient advocate for social change is our people's story in this country. And by people, it is across race, gender, and age. And they also teach us to listen, and that you are never too young to envision the kind of leader you want to be. Our program tonight is backdropped by Dale Orlander Smith's Until the Flood, just like 2 weeks ago. And if you're interested in watching the play, it's available for free streaming on the website, allarts.org. Again, that's allarts.org. This play, Until the Flood, is about the St. Louis community's reaction to the killing of Michael Brown. And it serves as one example of the many stories of gun violence in our country. This play does not represent every survivor's story, but it does offer social complexities that can be identifiable across stories, particularly when it comes to the intersections of race, gender, age, and culture. So 2 weeks ago, we showed a clip from that play to frame the night. But tonight, we actually have a montage from our youth to frame the night. Let's take a closer look.
Hi, my name is Alicia, and gun violence impacted my life in a major way back in 2018. I lost my little brother due to gun violence because he was shot and killed by his father. And ever since then, I feel like I have become very numb to the fact that he's no longer here with us. And in a way, it has given me, it has sparked something within me to want to bring about awareness in any ways that I can. And, having these difficult conversations about gun violence and how they impact the lives of those who are personally affected by it or those who may be affected by it through association.
My name is Anna, and I am a junior at Whitefish Bay High School. While I haven't experienced gun violence personally in my life, my main experience with it has been through lockdown drills. I've experienced lockdown drills my whole life. In elementary school, we were told to turn off the lights and hide in the corner, and as long as you were quiet enough, the intruder wouldn't be able to get you. In middle school, things got a little bit more intense. We were now told to lie under our desks and grab the closest heavy object to throw it at an intruder if they came into the room. Now in high school, I know the closest exits to each of my classrooms and exactly how to barricade each of the doors.
My name is Peyton and I'm a 10th grade student. There were many impacted by gun violence in 2020. In 2019, there were 92 homicides. In the past year, 2020, the number has increased with 184 homicides. It was a historic year for homicides in Milwaukee. The gun violence has skyrocketed here. Some people feel that it was from the stress of the pandemic. The violence seems to be increasing. I want it to be safer for future generations, although it seems to be getting worse. People are being irresponsible, and even their children are getting a hold of guns. The kids are getting hurt, or the people around them from that. People are not having self-control. It's frightening to me that you could look at someone the wrong way or make a driving mistake and get shot. If things don't change now or over time, it will continue to escalate.
Hello, my name's Tyler Kelly, and I'm super excited for this panel today. I've been working in gun violence prevention for a few years now, and have had the pleasure of working with some of the biggest organizations that contribute locally, including the Wisconsin Anti-Violence Effort and March for Our Lives. Gun violence is an issue that affects so many Wisconsinites, an issue so widespread, with everything from suicide to police violence being things that I truly believe are some of the biggest problems that we need to solve in our society today.
My name is Kisha Tucker, and I've lost my brothers Maurice Grimes and DeMarco Smith due to gun violence. And since I've lost my brothers due to gun violence, I've been helping out the community by blessing people with blessing boxes filled with gifts and affirmations.
I've had teachers whose classrooms are on the 3rd floor tell us to jump out of the window if an intruder comes in, because it's better to have broken legs than to be shot. It is terrifying and seeps into everything of everyday life. In the past, I've done work with Students Demand Action and other gun advocacy programs.
I believe that it's not something easy to talk about, but it's something that's very necessary, and it's something that needs to be discussed, because gun violence does more than just take the life of a person. It also robs those who are left behind, who have to, find ways to bring about some type of peace within them, even though it almost seems impossible to do so. So I'm really excited that I get to be, a part of this experience and be able to have these conversations and be a part of them.
We are in for such a treat tonight, getting to be in the presence of these young leaders, these world makers. And we'll hear more from our panelists in just a bit. Before we get started with the panel, we are bringing back Deborah Gillespie, founder of Mothers Against Gun Violence and a wonderful catalyst for Voices of Gun Violence in collaboration with UWM. She was here with us 2 weeks ago as our moderator, and now we get to speak with her again, just to tune in anyone who was not able to hear about the context of Mothers Against Gun Violence and Voices of Gun Violence. She's going to give us a bit more context, like I said, and then she will be part of introducing our moderators for the evening. Hi, Deb.
Hello, Njame. I am so excited to be here today. Pinch me, everyone. Survivors are on the largest theater in Wisconsin, talking about issues that are important to them. And not only survivors, activists, as Njame said, these are our future leaders, and they're here today. And I am so excited for you guys to meet them. The next person who I'm about to introduce helped these young people put together their questions. But before I introduce her, I must tell you a little bit about Voices of Gun Violence. Voices of Gun Violence is a collaboration with Mothers Against Gun Violence, Carroll University, and the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I was so blessed to connect with these two universities and the individuals who I work with to create these stories and to give survivors a voice. But my biggest blessing thus far has been the opportunity for us to be on this platform. Again, pinch me. I'm at the Milwaukee rep. Oh my God. So, the young lady who I'm about to introduce you to, her name is Paula Lobo. Paula is a Latinx multidisciplinary artist with strong ties to community-based work. She is currently working towards a curriculum on media-based storytelling and unpacking what it means to be radical in our art. Lobo is a fourth-year student in film, video, animation, and new genre programs, and exploring topics of identity, language, and ancestral lines. She's a strong advocate for community organizing and work that helps sustain others. Also, Paula is the young lady who put together this montage that you just saw. Welcome, Paula.
Hey everyone. Hey Najeme. Hey Deborah. Um, I'm really excited to introduce our two moderators today. They're two very powerful young women. Our first moderator is Anna Harris. She's a student at Whitefish Bay High School. In addition to being active in Students Demand Justice, she's the co-author of What the Children, published in the Gender Policy Report. Our second moderator for tonight is Alisa Villanueva. She is a lifelong continuous learner who challenges herself to show up and be intentional about the work she does each and every day. She lost her brother due to gun violence over 2 years ago, and since then strives to learn all she can to make a difference in young people's lives. In 2019, she joined Public Allies Milwaukee and was given an education unlike any other. She learned a lot about racial injustice, microaggressions, sexism, and all the forms of how people like her have been held back in society. She also learned to understand her own privilege and has been looking to learn more about how to use her voice to make a difference in her work. She believes we have what it takes to make a difference and hopes to continue to show up in those ways so she can encourage someone else to do so. Thank you.
Hello, Alicia. Welcome, our first moderator.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I will go ahead and start off by introducing the panelists. The first one that I will introduce is Tyler Kelly, and he is a 19-year-old activist from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Tyler has worked in gun violence prevention in the state of Wisconsin for 3 years, having served as a March for Our Lives Milwaukee's chapter lead and the Wisconsin Anti-Violence Efforts Youth and Civic Engagement Lead. Tyler is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in political science at Carthage College, which he hopes to use to continue to advocate for his community. Welcome, Tyler. And then is Anna on with us?
Hello, just got on. Another panelist is Kisha Tucker. She is an 8th grade scholar at Milwaukee College Prep on Lloyd Street, and she has always dreamed of being a dancer. It is something that she has always been passionate about until she lost her brother to gun violence in Milwaukee. And since the loss of her brother, she has been working on becoming the next voice for youth that have experienced trauma. And their brother and her mother and her started a life coaching business called Butterfly Sacred Struggle. They've strived to make it a difference in our community by being part of the challenges we want to see. They've had 2 successful years of providing the community with their Feel Better boxes. They decorate these boxes and fill them with affirmations and gifts that they have collected from the community. They love giving them to people who have lost a loved one to gun violence in hopes that it will give them hope and grace.
Okay, and then our final panelist is Peyton Benz. She's a sophomore at Greenfield High School. She's an athlete who's interested in reading and art. And she says that due to all of the violence that she has been seeing in the media and that she hears about on a daily basis, she was interested in participating in this panel because she would like to educate herself more on racial injustice and what that really means to her. As well, she would like to speak to what it truly feels like to be a biracial young lady in her community to make a difference in the world today. And welcome, Peyton.
It's great having everyone here. And so,
yes. Sorry.
start with the panel questions.
Okay.
So one of the questions that we have to ask is about the play. So one of the questions is, what did you guys take away from the play that was surrounding gun violence?
I'm happy to kick it off. My biggest takeaway from the play is really just a general reminder on how powerful art like plays can be in telling a narrative. I think as activists, it's really important to remember that there are ways to present narrative outside of just like a traditional storytelling. And the play I thought was super effective in making it seem less like just stories for an hour and more like a cohesive story that was brought together in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, it showed a lot of the different point of views, and it was really effective. It was really understanding, and it really showed a lot of emotion and stuff, and it was really good to hear and how there's different point of views and learning a lot from all of it and how it.
Okay, well, thank you, Tyler and Casey. I think we lost Anisha, but we can go ahead with the second question. Was there any part of the play that stood out for you?
Yeah, I can take this first again. What really stood out to me was how the separate narratives were all able to come together and tell a story. I really thought that providing multiple perspectives really allowed you to understand the differences as to what one person experienced, but then also the overarching truths that all of the different people experience.
Yeah, it showed how it impacted other people, and people were scared. They questioned it. Some didn't know what was going on. Everyone was thinking the same, and they didn't know what could happen next.
Of course. If you could select a specific audience to watch this play, what type of audience would you guys select?
When I think about audience, I think there's two really crucial audiences that could use to see this play. The first one is young people like us. The general inspiration and the power of the knowledge provided by the play are really important for the next generation. As Deborah presented when introducing us, these are the next leaders of the world. And understanding the problems of today are really the only way that we're going to be able to fix them tomorrow. So we really need to empower our generation by understanding both the problems, but then also how to present the problems. And this play did that in such a beautiful way. And that's like a very valuable lesson I think we need to learn. On top of young people seeing it, I really think some people in the baby boomer generation, the a little bit older people, I think they may need a little bit of a reminder on how pervasive problems like gun violence, police violence are in our society. Don't get me wrong, every generation has really had these experiences where it was super clear in media and to themselves on an individual level that gun violence and police violence were a big deal. You think of Rodney King in LA, all of these different stories, they happen decades apart, but it's so easy to forget and to tune it out that I really think this play would be a great reminder to some people that have been able to kind of stay out of the bubble of gun violence in some way, just based on them being a little older, a little more disconnected.
Kisha, since it seems like you're back in, the question we were just asking was, if you could select a specific audience to watch the play, what type of audience would you select? Do you have any ideas?
I would select a younger audience to watch the play because there's never enough knowledge that you could get out of so much. And like
Tyler said, we need a reminder of what is going on and what has happened in the past and what is going on now.
Yeah, I agree with that. People younger and even older, they can forget or they need to be reminded. And for the younger, it's really effective that it'll carry on farther as they grow older and they learn about all these new things. The play could really affect how they feel and open their eyes.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Tyler in regards to having like people within the older generations kind of really being the audience, because I feel like especially people who are in power and people who, you know, have some knowledge that these things are happening in communities but not really being directly affected by them. So it's because it's not happening in their community, it may not be something that they are in tune with, or it may not be something that they see as critical or something that they really need to, you know, care about. But if they were to watch it and see like, wow, this is something that really does happen in you know, other communities, and this is something that is impacting a lot of people from younger generations to older generations, and this is how, you know, it's changing the course of their lives and their experience. I think that it would be very beneficial to them to be educated on that, and it might be eye opening and may allow them to be put into a position where they can do something about it. So thank you all for sharing that. Um, and then the next question is, what were your initial feelings after watching the play? And then what was your grieving process like in response to any gun violence that you may have dealt with personally or by association?
So my feelings were, it was kind of iffy between like sadness and happiness because, you know, that's not right that officers kill young black men in our community. And my brother, Maurice Grimes, was shot not by an officer, by another young man in our community due to gun violence. That's not right that people just go around killing people. And I feel like we should just get more justice on that.
So clearly, with how powerful this play was.
And then,
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll keep talking. I'm
no,
good.
you're fine. I was, yeah, yeah, you're good.
Oh, these Zoom panels are so much stranger. Just saying that with all the emotion behind the play, I really think I was taken aback almost in a way that I only really feel like I am when hearing like a personal story from somebody traditionally about their trauma. I have the privilege of never necessarily personally being affected by gun violence, but I've worked with a lot of survivors. And I think you always kind of have to take a little bit of time just for yourself and to think. And I think that time to process is really important. And I was very happy that I was able to watch the play and then take some time to process, to really think and understand the injustices, and then really get ready to fight to end them. That was my process after watching this film.
Yeah, I have not experienced gun violence, but how the play affected me, it really made me understand and see how like how it can really affect people. And like I was upset to see it this way. I want to bring awareness to gun violence and how dangerous it can be. And I was bothered by how well we need to bring more awareness to it to stop these things. It really affected me, and I'm educating myself.
So, do any of you have any answers to the question about your grieving process and responses to any gun violence you might have experienced, or should we move on to the next question?
you touched on that briefly.
Next question sounds great. I mean, unless you're
All right. That's really good. Next question is, what resources have you found in Milwaukee so far? That Kanisha, looks like you've been working on creating some resources as well. So if you want to talk about those.
I think Kanisha's frozen, unless that's just me. With that, I'll just quickly kind of provide what I've seen in Milwaukee, because we do have some really great resources. In a lot of ways, I feel like the tides in our city are turning, and there are a lot of people that are really ready to see an end to gun violence, and rightfully so, of course. Today, we saw our president come and pass executive orders on gun violence prevention, which is, of course, valuable. But on a more local level, I also really see great work going on from advocates and community leaders alike. Recently, within the advocacy space, I've had the pleasure of working with the 80% Coalition, which has brought together not just gun violence prevention activists, but also community leaders such as faith and religious leaders, coming alongside business leaders and elected officials, and all coming together with all the individual powers that they have to try to see some of these common sense solutions to gun violence come into fruition. Beyond that, I really think that they provide great networks for survivors and such to really receive the help and support that they need. So I think that there are some really valuable resources coming here in Milwaukee, and I'm really hoping the tides are turning not just here locally, but also on the national scale.
Thank you for sharing that, Tyler.
Yeah, I know that another resource that I haven't had as much experience with is the Survivor Network that's under the Everytown Spectrum, Undertown umbrella. And I know that they do a lot of work with connecting survivors and working to tell their stories, but I haven't had too much experience with them. But I do know that that's another resource that exists. Either of you have either of you interacted or experienced with any other resources in Milwaukee, or should we move on to the next question?
I personally have not, but I think after I lost my brother due to gun violence, I didn't really try to look out for any resources. I don't know, I guess I tried to more so deal with it on my own for a really long time. So I don't know, I think, like I said before, like having the conversation is necessary and it's something that I believe that we should be doing. But for me, I feel like it sometimes is a little bit hard to, want to initiate the conversation sometimes. So I haven't really looked into additional research. Quenisha, welcome back. Are you able to answer the question about the resources that you and your mom have created for the community?
Yes. Yes.
Quenisha, you're muted.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So for the past 2 years, I've been creating blessing boxes. And in those blessing boxes are affirmation, little gifts, and little teddy bears that come along with it to help you grieve and feel better I call them feel better boxes. Another part of my resources that I have found is a group called Project Ujima that helps families with grief support and things like that. It's not only for adults, it's for children too. My mother, LaPortia Kimber, is a motivational speaker, and she knows activists Camille Mays and Von Mays, and we all work together to help the community better. And we are also working on a butterfly garden in the future.
That is terrific. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for all that you're doing for the community and helping to make people try to feel a little bit better in regard to their own. So the next question is, if you could create a space for people who have experienced gun violence, what would it look like and how would you keep it safe?
Yeah, I can try to take this. So, as somebody that's never experienced gun violence personally, entering any space where you're trying to create a safe space, especially for survivors, I really, from my experience, the best practice is to go in to listen, to go in to support. Honestly, you're not going to be able to help somebody that just lost a loved one. You're not going to be able to fix it. It's not really how that works, but you can be there and you can be a supportive person. You can be someone that's there to listen. Those are kind of the really crucial factors. Beyond that, what I really think is important is that everyone comes in good intention and just knows that we're all here to help people feel better, to help the community grieve, to help individuals grieve. In that kind of a really vulnerable state, it's super important to be there to listen, be there in the best of ways.
Yes, I agree. I'd be there to listen, talk, anything they need to say, and just really be there for them.
Absolutely. So it seems like encouraging dialogue and just being there to help people through that rough time seems like a really crucial factor. So, um, additionally, one other question is what kind of policies would you like to see happen in Milwaukee in relation to gun violence?
Peyton, do you want to kick us off with this?
Yeah, policies I want to see is really paying attention to the people that get a hold of guns because there is a conceal and carry where they take classes, but there are people that are just getting them. Well, we don't really know when they are. They don't have. They shouldn't be having them. Like, so I really think we should track down and pay attention to that because that's what leads to the bad intentions, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Peyton. I think passing background checks is a really good first step to try to make sure that people that shouldn't have guns don't get their hands on them. I think that even if it is difficult to enforce something like background checks, it's really essential to have laws on the books to try to keep guns out of the hands out of folks who don't want them. Beyond that, I was really excited to see the Biden administration announce that they're going to be outlining ERPO policies, extreme risk protection orders, which are also known as red flag laws, that allow police officers and courts and families and mental health care providers to partition to remove guns from the possession of people that may be a danger to themselves or others. And I think that is going to be really important as well. And then another thing that I really liked seeing, Biden funded it a little bit, and we've also seen our state government funded a little bit, but community-based solutions are really important. We here in Milwaukee have the Office of Violence Prevention, and they do excellent work. So making sure that they're well funded in a lot of ways is an alternative to police, but just generally as interrupters, as peacekeepers, being able to put on programs in order to try to lower the violence as a whole, not just gun violence, is really, really important. So the combination of violence prevention, at expanding background checks, and also adding ERPO laws I think will really have a positive impact on trying to decrease gun violence.
Absolutely. Kisha, I don't know if you're able to answer. The question you're just asking is, what kind of policies do you want to see happen in Milwaukee?
The policies I want to see happening in Milwaukee are that we have more justice, and the people who are running the policies in the community is making sure that we get more justice.
So another question is, who are some adults that you all look up to that are doing great activist work in the community?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on this one. And firstly, this is probably one of the most difficult questions we've had thus far because there's so many great people doing work. Love the work Deb's doing. I love that she introduced us and put this all together. Deb also has done some great work with WAVE and the great people at WAVE, Jerry Bonavia and Heidi Rose have been there forever alongside Deja Gardner. Their entire staff is just excellent. They do great advocacy there. I also know on the adult panel, one of my close mentors was there, Pardeep Singh Kalika, who runs the Interfaith Council of Milwaukee alongside a million other things. I really look up to the way that he takes peace into his activism, and justice isn't just about necessarily criminal penalties or anything like that, but justice in a larger standpoint, thinking about like mindfulness and peace and just generally trying to bring things down, bring people to a happier place, because there are definitely the way that he thinks about it in a lot of ways are separating the problems of guns and gun violence into guns and violence and trying to fight both battles at the same time, trying to actually also, on top of trying to focus on limiting the guns in folks' hands, also trying to figure out how to decrease the violence in our communities. Those are some great names to come to mind, and there's so many others that are doing excellent work here in Milwaukee, which I am personally so grateful for.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate it. So, do you all have any organizations or people that you know that can help or provide resources to children or teens or in the community?
Yeah, there's tons of great organizations out there. I've tried to mention some throughout my previous answers. The Office of Violence Prevention here in Milwaukee does a great job. The Wisconsin Anti-Violence Effort does great work, both in terms of empowering youth, putting on things like this, but also in terms of policy advocacy. Everytown, which is Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action, which I know Hannah's involved with, they do great stuff around here. March for Our Lives has image on the state. There's so many great orgs. Just honestly, if you can just even Google gun violence prevention organizations, and there's so many people doing great work. And I'm happy to see more people working together, getting on panels like this, talking about the common solutions, because really, as we all start to work together, that's where I think we'll make some progress.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Peyton, do you have any resources that were not mentioned yet, or?
I do not have any resources, but I'm here to listen and research and to really learn about all this and educate myself.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And Kisha, do we have you back with us, or?
Looks like
Mm.
her connection might be coming in and then out. But I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here and showing up to learn and to listen and to explore new ways of how you can continue advocacy and, um, really try to do your part within the community. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we begin to wrap up?
I just wanted to thank you, Alicia and Anna, for doing a great job moderating this tonight. It's so difficult in the virtual space. Thank you for really allowing us to ask great questions, allow us to share our truths. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone. I'm learning a lot, and it's really helpful, really opening my eyes to what's going on today. I'm really glad I got to be here and learn so much.
Well, thank you all for sharing, and thank you for being here.
And thank you again, Anna and Alicia, for being wonderful moderators. Thank you all, panelists, moderators. A special thank you to Deborah, Peyton, Tyler, Quinacia, Anna and Alicia again, and everyone who is working behind the scenes to make sure that Voices of Gun Violence is a successful project. And if you want to learn more about the Voices of Gun Violence project, or if you yourself feel inspired to share your story, you can learn more at the website www.uwm.edu/gun violence project, and we will be putting that in the chat. You can also learn more about some of the organizations mentioned at this panel and at panel 2 weeks ago. They will also be put in the chat. The WAVE Educational Fund, waveedfund.org, Peace Action of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Network for Peace and Justice, and We Loved and Lost. It is just as important to hear from our young people as it is the adults. It is also important to get our youth to speak their truths and share their experiences. So for all of you tuning in tonight, thank you so much for listening in. And you can always find this recording on our Milwaukee Rep YouTube page. With that, have a good night, everyone. Good night to our panelists, our moderators, and be sure to check out our upcoming in-person concert. First Lady of Song, Alexis J. Roston sings Ella Fitzgerald, and go to our Milwaukee Rep website for information on tickets. Have a great night, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye.